What's up guys, Firewolf here, showing you guys the MSI MEG X870E Godlike motherboard, which packs crazy features and an insane $1,300 price tag. MEG is the three-letter acronym for MSI Enthusiast Gaming, with the Godlike being reserved for the best of the best. You're getting an insane 24 plus 2 plus 1 power stages for overclocking your AM5 CPU to its limits, and even being able to hit above 9,000 mega transfers on DDR5 memory. There's also a 3.99-inch LCD display where you can customize and show your hardware monitoring or uploading your own images and GIFs. Huge thanks to MSI for sending the Godlike so I can show you everything you need to know and how to set up this beast of a board. All the components will be listed down below along with affiliate links, which help support my channel. But your time is worth more to me, so thank you, and I hope I earned a subscribe from you. Before I unbox the MSI Godlike, let's talk about the design of this box, which I think looks incredible. If I'm going to drop up to $1,300, I would definitely want the box art to feature the MSI Godlike front and center, which I think looks awesome. You can see on the side we have some nice gold accents, and on the back we have 22 reasons why you should go for the MSI Godlike. I also like the fact that this whole packaging is nice and wrapped up, so you know you're getting a completely brand new motherboard, which I really appreciate. All right, let's go ahead and slide this over. And before revealing the Godlike, we have the MEG logo right over there with that nice triangle design. X870E Godlike, beyond the norm meets Godlike. So let's go ahead and meet our Godlike here. I'm gonna lift this up here. Now, one thing I'm liking about this package is that to open this whole thing up, this whole thing lifts up at an angle, which I think looks incredible. We see right over here on the right side, we have the same slogan that we just saw. Then we have our Godlike over here. So definitely am enjoying this whole unboxing experience so far. Let's go ahead and take it out. And as always, I start off with the peel off. Alright guys, finally removed all the plastic. I gotta say that is the most plastic that I have removed out of a motherboard so far. And I gotta say this looks fire. We can see right on the top left that beautiful MSI Dragon logo that will illuminate via RGB, and it has this awesome looking mirrored finish. And of course the standout feature gonna be on the right side. We have a 3.99-inch LCD display here. That's a really cool looking design. We have the same mirror design. Right on top here, we have Godlike, followed by this nice little wavy fin design. What's really interesting too is that the CPU connectors are located on the top right side of the motherboard instead of the left like most other motherboards are. We see for the main M.2, we have the same mirror design here, which will definitely illuminate as well with RGB. And then on the bottom here, we have that nice MEG triangular design, which I think flows really nice. So let's take a closer look at all of the IO ports that we get on the MSI Godlike. And as we can see, we are fully stacked. Starting off with the top left, we have dual USB 4 ports with transfer speeds up to 40 gigabits per second, and they also feature DisplayPort as well. Following down the USB-C ports, we have a total of 5 additional USB-Cs at 10 gigabits per second, meaning that this board has a total of 7 USB-C ports, which is the most that I've seen so far on a motherboard, which is crazy. Next up on the top right, we have 6 USB-A ports at 10 gigabits per second, with one of them outlined as Flash BIOS. Over here, we have a dedicated Flash BIOS button, so you can easily do BIOS updates without having to go into the BIOS. We have a nice clear CMOS button, which I absolutely love to see. And also we have a smart button as well that you can program to do other type of functionalities. We have 2 additional USB-A ports at 10 gig, making it a total of 8 USB-A ports. And we also have dual Ethernet ports. We have one at 10 gig and the other at 5 gigs, which is incredible. We also have Wi-Fi 7. And as for the audio ports, we have SPDIF out, microphone in, and a line out. The majority of the connectors are going to be facing towards the right of the motherboard. So if I tilt this to the right, and you'll notice on the top right here, you'll see Easy Bridge here. So this almost 4-inch LCD display has a magnetic design. So all you have to do is lift this up from the bottom and this whole Easy Bridge comes out. And when we take a closer look at the Easy Bridge, see on the right side, we have an internal USB header, an Easy Connect, tuning controller, some temperature sensors here, a bridge control for the fan hub, and this over here being the front panel connector, which is very unique since most motherboards are on the bottom right. And then on the bottom here, we have details of all of the additional connectors that are located on the right side. And with the easy bridge on, as we can see on the right side here, we have an adjustable RGB header, followed by a 4-pin CPU fan header, a pump header right next to it. You have your 24-pin ATX power. Next up, we have PD_power 1, and this basically takes an 8-pin PCIe connector here, which enables this USB-C port to deliver up to 60 watts of power delivery. And we can also see that this USB-C connector has transfer speeds up to 20 gigabits per second. And then to the left of it, we have another USB-C connector here at 10 gig. We have a second pump header, and right over here we have two USB-A ports at 5 gigabits per second, followed by another 8-pin PCIe connector. Now this 8-pin connector will supply supplemental power to these two additional PCIe Express slots. And then moving along, we have two SATA ports. Then we have our second internal USB header, and finally the HD audio. For the additional connectors, we do have to remove the bottom heatsink cover here. Now I just realized you can actually remove this bottom right portion. This whole thing is magnetic here to actually reveal the additional connectors as well as the switches. I originally thought that you had to remove this whole heatsink cover to reveal these, but you actually can access it with this piece over here. We do have a BIOS switch over here, some safe boot options here, two additional SATA connectors here. So for those access here, you do have to remove the bottom portion. All right, further inside the box, we're gonna get an M.2 Expander Z, which can connect to one of the Express slots, giving you two additional NVMe, and also has an integrated fan to cool those NVMe drives. Here's our Wi-Fi 7 antenna that comes with a magnetic base here, and that you can easily put together. Here's an easy control hub, and as you notice on the actual motherboard, there's not a whole bunch of fan headers, so they actually have a separate hub that gives you additional fan headers up to a total of 7, and we also have adjustable RGB headers as well. So we get this accessory box. Starting off with a SATA power connector. This gets connected directly to the easy control hub here, right on the bottom, which then connects to two SATA power inputs here to supply enough power to this control hub. Next, we have the bridge connector here. Now this will also get connected to the control hub here, and the other end gets connected to this easy bridge. You want to locate where it says bridge, match the missing pin. And this basically connects all of the fan PWM and adjustable RGB, provided that you also have the SATA power as well. Next up, we have this chassis instruction cable. Next up, we get two temperature sensors. We get a total of 4 SATA cables, a 5-volt of adjustable RGB female header that splits off into 3 male adjustable RGB headers. Here's another cable here that utilizes a 3-pin adjustable RGB connector to this 3-pin. Next, we have our standard 12-volt RGB Y splitter, a 4-pin fan header. It looks like it's an extension here. Finally, an easy connector, which this end connects to your magnetic easy bridge where it says easy connector. And this connector splits off into a 3-pin adjustable RGB header, a 4-pin over here. Finally, we have a 4-pin fan header. And finally, tucked right underneath all of this foam, you're gonna get some MSI stickers here featuring the MSI Dragon and Lucky Dragon as well. Shout outs and a quick installation guide. If you want to pull up the full manual, you do have to go to the main website to pull the full manual. Here's our easy clip remover here. Now this tool is definitely needed if you need to change the M.2 keys and make the M.2 socket accept smaller M.2s or larger M.2s. We also get an MSI branded USB drive here that houses all of the drivers. And we also get some M2 screws here. We get a total of 4 little screws. And finally, a 0.5mm thermal pad, which is used for the M.2 expander. All right, now we're ready to prep up the MSI Godlike. We'll be installing our CPU, our NVMe SSDs, our RAM sticks, as well as an optional CPU contact frame. So starting off with our CPU, we're going to be using the AMD Ryzen 9 9950X870, which is currently the best productivity and gaming CPU. And the great thing about the Godlike is that it has an insane power stage. We have a 24 plus 2 plus 1, which is perfect for those that want to dive into the overclocking aspects of your CPU. So let's go ahead and open up our CPU socket cover. I'm really liking this dark gray retention bracket. Let's go ahead and grab our CPU. And as always, make sure you open up your CPU away from the motherboard in case you accidentally drop it. I'm going to be very careful since I have the camera right on top. Make sure we have the triangle on the top left, which will match up with the triangle on the top left of the CPU socket cover. All right, next we're going to drop our CPU socket cover. Go ahead and push this all the way down. And then we can remove the CPU socket cover. And just like that, we have our 9950 XGD nice and secured. Next up, I'll be installing 96GB of the Trident Z5 Royal Neo RGB in the silver color, which comes with this awesome mirrored finish, which I think matches very well with the mirrored finish on the Godlike. Now I'll be using 2 dim sticks, which get installed right over here. And if you're just going to be using 2 dim sticks, make sure you drop down the top latches for the second and fourth slot, which is labeled A2 and B2. We only have latches on the top. There are no latches on the bottom. We want to make sure we line up the notch of our RAM with the silver line over here, making sure we have the correct orientation. And we're just going to slide it right on top. Now, because there's only a latch on top, you'll notice your RAM is going to stick up from the bottom. Just go ahead and put some light pressure. And now everything is nice and even. And to lock into place, we're going to push it down. Here, 1 click and the second click. And we're going to repeat the same step for our second RAM stick. And what I am noticing here is that our RAM is going to be positioned more towards the left side of the motherboard, which most motherboards will have the RAM more on the right side. 2 clicks again. All right, just like that, we have our RAM successfully installed. Now, what I am noticing here is that because of the easy bridge, it does cover up a portion of the RAM, but I gotta say the mirrored finish on both of these look incredible. All right, next up is revealing our M.2 sockets. All the heatsink covers features a quick release latch system here, so all I have to do is push this here, and this whole heatsink comes right off. Very easy and very seamless without having to utilize any tools at all. We do the same thing for the middle slots. Whole heatsink comes off. And finally, for the bottom here, so absolutely no tools are necessary at all, which I personally think is super convenient. Now, the Godlike has a total of 5 M.2 sockets directly on the board, with 2 additional NVMe sockets utilizing the M.2 expander. So you can have a total of 7 NVMe drives, which is crazy. And as for the PCI Express slots, we have a total of 3. We have our main one over here, which is Gen 5 X16. The secondary slot is going to be Gen 5 X8. And finally, for this bottom PCI Express slot, Gen 4 X4. And as for the M.2 sockets on the motherboard, we have 2 M.2s that support up to PCIe Gen 5 X4, which are both directly connected to the CPU, while the 3rd, 4th, and 5th M.2 slots support up to PCIe Gen 4x4, which are connected to the X870E chipset and then routed to the CPU. And as for the 2 additional M.2 sockets, which are from the expander, both of these support up to PCIe Gen 5x4, which by utilizing the M.2 expander gets connected via PCI Express by 8, which would basically go on the secondary slot, which then gets integrated directly to the CPU for maximum NVMe performance. Now, before we start installing any NVMe SSDs, it's very important for me to cover lane sharing across the M.2 sockets, the PCI Express, and even the dual USB 4s. And the easiest way to explain lane sharing would be utilizing the block diagram that you can pull up on the user manual. All AM5 CPUs have a total of 28 PCIe lanes, with 4 reserved for the X870E chipsets, leaving us with 24 lanes. And I'll be focusing more on the CPU side, so we can see when we look at the right side here, our first M.2 socket has 4 lanes directly reserved to the CPU, so that's going to be our main M.2 socket. If we start scrolling more towards the left side, we'll see right over here, USB 4 40 gigabits per second, and our second M.2 socket. You can see both of these share lanes with each other and then get routed to the CPU. And so what that means is that if I populate this secondary M.2 socket, instead of this NVMe running at Gen 5 X4, this will now have 2 lanes which are shared with the dual USB 4. So instead of the USB 4 having 4 lanes, now has only 2 lanes. So that way both of these can share a total of 4 lanes. Now, personally for me, I absolutely love this type of lane sharing because MSI takes it a step further by giving us the ability to disable the USB 4 ports on the back, completely shut off. So that way our secondary NVMe can have all 4 lanes by cutting this off completely via a BIOS setting, which I honestly prefer instead of directly reducing the lanes on my main PCI Express slot. And finally, for our first and secondary Express slots, which is going to be these 2 over here, both of these share lanes with each other, which means that if you were to populate 2 graphics card, both of these will run at a max of Gen 5 by 8, or if you just populate your main graphics card, then of course you have Gen 5 by 16 full bandwidth. Now keep in mind that if you're going to be using the M.2 expander, since this utilizes PCI Express by 8, you'll be utilizing this secondary PCI Express slot. And the moment you utilize this, it will automatically reduce the main PCI Express slot from X16 down to X8. So just keep that in mind. If you want to use these additional M.2s, your main Express slot will definitely be reduced. The next 2 slots that share bandwidth with each other is going to be the 4th M.2 socket, which shares lane with this a third express slot. Now that we know all about our lane sharing, for my main NVMe drive, I'll be using the Samsung 9100 Pro, which is PCIe Gen 5 X4, 4 terabytes. And this being the main NVMe, you want to make sure you utilize the first M.2 socket over here. So make sure you remove this bottom sticker over here. I'm going to push this in an angle here. And now all we have to do is push our NVMe all the way down. And you're going to hear a nice lick and automatically locks itself. And if you ever want to lock it, you just push this little silver tab to the left and that pops off. They make this very easy. I absolutely love how easy it is to install your NVMe drives with no tools necessary. Now for my second NVMe drive, I'll be using the Samsung 9100 Pro in the 2 terabyte configuration. And as we were just discussing the lane sharing, the great thing about this board is that I can actually utilize 2 Gen 5 NVMe drives directly connected to the CPU without having to touch the bandwidth of my main express slot, which is incredible. And so for the second slot, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to remove the sticker here. So your NVMe is going to look like it's upside down. We're going to do the same thing. Push this in by an angle and click this all the way down. Now this third M.2 socket, you'll notice this appears longer than the other M.2 sockets. This is because this supports up to 22.110. And so if you ever wanted to readjust this clip here, you would basically utilize the clip remover, and then all you have to do is just twist it, turn it all the way to the left. And so this whole clip comes off, and then you can then remove this screw over here, position that screw over here. And as you can see with that switch, we're now able to support the long NVMe form factor, but I'm going to go ahead and put it back since I have the standard size. And then for my third NVMe, I'll be using the Samsung 990 Pro 4 terabytes, which is a Gen 4x4, and I'll be putting that on the third M.2 slot here, which is integrated into the chipset. So I do know the performance is not going to be the very best. And so for the third one here, we're just going to match up the notch here. It's going to be on the bottom right. Push that in and then lock it into place. Now you're ready to attach our main heatsink over here. Make sure you remove the sticker on the heatsink itself, revealing the thermal pad. Line this up with this top piece over here. And then you just click it in, and now your main M.2 is perfectly installed. I'm going to repeat the same step with the stickers from the second slot and the third slot. And I'm going to go ahead and reposition this heatsink cover, lock it into place. And I'm not going to be utilizing any M.2s on the bottom here, but same thing here. We just line up the bottom heatsink cover here, and that's pretty much it. Now, for those of you guys that want to install additional NVMe drives using the M.2 Expander Z, it is very easy. All we have to do is push down the latch here. This piece comes up, you just drag it out, revealing one of the sockets here. And then we just turn this around, and you're gonna notice this little triangle here. All we have to do is slide it to the left, and then we can go ahead and grab this and completely remove it. Next up, you grab your NVMe drive, and you're gonna pay attention to the actual form factor. This one over here, I have to position a notch just like this. So it's gonna go in upside down. And so before you attach your NVMe, make sure you remove the sticker. But once you remove the sticker, all we have to do now, place this right on top of here, and then place this cover back in, and then lock it into place. And then you flip this over, and then you slide this back in. You push that all the way down and lock it into place. And now you have your NVMe installed. And then on the motherboard here, you want to place the expander on the second express slot, which is right over here. Keep in mind that by utilizing the expander, you're going to automatically share lanes with the first main express slot. So both of these will now run X8, but this also means you can have those 2 additional Gen 5 NVMe's directly routed to the CPU, which is insane. Now, for those of you guys that want to install an AM5 contact frame, I'll be using the Thermal Grizzly AM5 contact ceiling frame here. All we have to do is remove the original retention bracket. So I recommend installing the CPU on top of the socket first. Make sure you have the top cover open and this latch all the way on the bottom. And all we have to do is loosen up these 4 screws, which your AM5 contact frame should include a tool that comes with this type of bit. And then you just loosen up the screws. Now that we have all 4 screws loose, I recommend just holding the top cover and the latch, lift it all the way up. All right, and this whole original retention bracket comes right out. I recommend saving this just in case. Next, you can grab your contact frame. Now this Thermal Grizzly has an additional ceiling frame here. All I have to do is attach this on the bottom. Again, this is completely optional. And then you place this on top of your AM5 CPU, which literally fits like a puzzle. Push it all the way in. And next you're going to grab the 4 included screws, and then you're going to screw the contact frame onto the motherboard. And just like that, we have the AM5 secure contact frame. All right, the last thing to do here is to remove these 2 pieces here. If you're going to be using an AIO or an air cooler that calls for a different type of fan offs or bracket, You do have to remove these two pieces here that are held by 4 Phillips screws. Alright, now our motherboard is fully prepped and we are now ready to install our motherboard on our PC case. Make sure of course your case supports EATX motherboard. Now if you're like me and you're going to be replacing the motherboard, my recommendation is to reroute your CPU connectors to the right side and have all of your bottom connectors also going to the right side, since all the connectors are going to be again to the right side. A couple of things that make things a little bit easier. Now another thing that's very important when it comes to installing the Godlike, the additional motherboard screws are located underneath some of the heatsink covers as well as the easy bridge. So make sure before you even drop it in, to make it easy, go ahead and remove the easy bridge out of the way, the main M.2, which is also going to reel the additional screw, and also the bottom heatsink cover over here. That way you have access to all 9 motherboard screws. And then we can position this very carefully. And then we can screw in all 9 motherboard screws. Now that I have all 9 motherboard screws, we can go ahead and reattach the easy bridge and all the other heatsink covers. Thankfully, these are really easy to remove and they don't require any type of tools. Because if they did, it would be really tedious. Alright, now that we install the heatsink covers, let's go ahead and connect our CPU connectors here. And again, this takes 2 8-pin connectors, and that's going to be located on the top right of the motherboard here, which is definitely very unique. Now, as for the ATX power, it could be a little bit tricky to try to connect since there's not a lot of space, since I already have the fans connected as well. I did have motherboard Leon Lee streamer cables, but there's not enough bend for me to actually utilize it, so I instead just utilize the regular standard ATX power. Sometimes it's really hard to push it from this angle, so I like to use a screwdriver to just push this connector in. Alright, so now our motherboard connector is in, and then I'll show you the rest of the connectors. Alright, and here are all the connectors that I've used on the right side of the motherboard here. Starting off for the top right, I put my pump header into CPU fan 1, followed by a 4-pin PWM header that's connected to my fan hub on the back of the case. I have it connected to pump system 1. Of course, we have our ATX connector, and then we have our first internal USB. And then going down right over here, we have the USB-C front panel connector. And then for the actual front panel connector for the actual case, that's going to be positioned right over here, which is definitely very unique since most front panel connectors are located on the bottom right of the motherboard. And if we keep going down, we have our USB-A front panel connectors. You do get a total 2, so it doesn't matter which one you decide to connect to. And then right on the bottom right, we have our HD audio all the way on the bottom, and then my final internal USB, which is connected to a USB hub on the back of the case as well. And that pretty much sums up all the connectors that I personally have on this case. All right, and here is the MSI Godlike installed on my white HYTE Y70 case here. Now, even though this case is fully white, the Godlike definitely stands out with its all black design with those awesome cooled mirrored effects. Now I have the MSI Gaming Trio 5080 in white, which will definitely pair up very nicely with the MSI Godlike. And before we start powering this on, I did dim out a lot of the lights so that we can better see the RGB effects of this motherboard. And so since we have a nice power button right over here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on using this button on the actual easy bridge. Let's go ahead and fire it up. And as we can see, everything is now illuminating. Now I have already added some custom effects, so I changed the color to match the aesthetics of the case here, but with a turquoise color, which I think looks really nice. As we can see here, we'll see the main easy bridge screen here that will illuminate and also give us all of the codes that is going around the actual PC, which I think is really awesome. And here's a closer look at the RGB effect of the dragon here. We have a nice little effect on the background of the Dragon logo as well. Really nice. Now you're also going to notice that on the main M.2, you also have RGB lighting, which I think looks amazing. And right on the bottom right on the motherboard, we have Godlike, which is really hard to show you since the camera is really hard for me to get the angles. Pick it up. I think that's a good angle right there. Oh yeah, that's beautiful right there. All right, so I shut off most of the RGB as well as most of the lighting in the background as well, so we can take a better look at the actual RGB effect. You can see with the lights off, we can clearly see the beautiful design of the Dragon logo here with the triangular design on the back. And this is something that's really hard to see when the lights are on, and especially if you have RGB fans that are very close to the Dragon logo, making it a little bit hard to see those actual details. But I gotta say, the effects on the Dragon logo looks fire. and also quickly change the display here to feature one of the custom presets that's available on the MSI sensor. For example, we can see a nice little animation here letting us know that it is the Godlike, which I think looks awesome. All right, so in order for you to control all aspects of your motherboard, such as the RGB and the screen, you are going to need to download and install MSI Sensor. And once you download MSI Sensor, right here under feature sets, there are only two applications that you need to install. We have a Mystic Light to control the adjustable RGB effects, and then Dynamic Dashboard here to control the LCD display. And there's other applications that you can also download and explore. Now, once you have these two installed, you can click on open on either one of them, or you can go up to features here, which will show all the applications you have installed on MSI Sensor. And so starting off with Mystic Light, this is where we can control the RGB effects of your motherboard, as well as any other adjustable RGB devices that you have connected. So over here we have MB, of course, motherboard, and you can actually select each one of these individually. And so for example, the IO cover controls the RGB of just the Dragon logo on the top left of the motherboard. So if I wanted to do a completely separate color, let's say I want to go for a blue color, just the Dragon logo change to blue. Now, if I go ahead and click on the drop down and go to M2_1, this is our primary M.2, and then we can go for a different color. Let's go ahead and choose red, giving you a lot of customization here. Now, you're gonna notice here, we have the graphics card in the middle, and then we have our RAM on the right side, but I have the option of linking everything together if I wanted all of them to be in unison. So if I click on this, now all of these will sync, and if I go ahead and click on, let's say red, and hit apply, now you're going to notice that everything changed red, including the RAM and my MSI Gaming Trio. Now for the main LCD screen, we're going to be using Dynamic Dashboard. And Dynamic Dashboard here gives us more customization that we can do on the screen. Starting off with the first option, we have Hardware Monitor. And by default, it defaults to this actual design here, which features a really cool triangular design, and they do give us 4 separate designs, and the only design at the moment that allows us to customize is going to be the bottom right, unfortunately. So if I click on this one, I can click on the gear icon here, and I can actually choose the frame color to whatever color I want this to be. So if I went for a red color, I can also change the actual fonts and then change the actual font color as well. So let's say this one, we're going to do a green color, and if I hit OK and then hit apply, that will start to load up on the screen. All right, and that loaded up. You'll see the top banner is red and then the text is the green color. Now, because this is custom, it does take longer than normal than other effects here. So you'll notice that if I click on a pre-custom effect, it loads up almost instantaneously. Now, you also get the option of choosing all of these different type of temperature sensors, and you also have the option of showing them all individually or showing them all in a list. So you only see right over here. We'll get a little preview of it so we can have all of them stacked together. And so that's Hardware Monitor. Next up here, we have Video/Images, and this is where you can find the pre-custom effects that MSI gives you, such as these over here, and you see like a little preview on the left, which makes things really nice and convenient. And then you can upload your own files here. You can see the supported files are 480 by 800. They support JPEG, GIFs, MP4, and each format can have a maximum of 10 files. So there's plenty of files that you can definitely add. So this is a custom one. So if I hit apply, you'll see that load up to the screen. And I'm happy to report that that change is pretty quick. And no matter which image that you go for, it will always show at least the CPU temperature on the top left and the chipset temperature on the right. For now, I'm going to leave it to the standard MEG here real quick. So I really love that this display supports a lot of different file formats to make it really custom. The only thing I wish they added was the functionality of having any of your custom images or GIFs to also be integrated to the hardware monitor. We unfortunately don't have that. You're just left with these 4 designs. That's the only thing that I'm a little bit disappointed. Now under customized banner, we have more custom effects that we can do. This lets you choose all these separate designs, and you can literally type in whatever you want over here. So for example, I have a Firewolf over here, and if I hit apply, that will of course start to load up, and then you see the banner playing, and you'll see the lettering that I just typed in, which is Firewolf, and it starts to scroll up, which I think looks really awesome. The next option here we have is System Clock, and we have a whole bunch of different clock interfaces here. And so I'm going to go ahead and quickly hit on apply here real quick. Now what I am noticing is that most of their presets have that golden color, and it doesn't give us the option to change the color schemes of it. That's something that I do wish they gave us the option to. And the final custom effect that we have is music display, which should definitely sync with whatever music application that you actually use. And finally, you do have the option of turning off the display completely by clicking on this little icon over here, and that powers everything off. And you can also set the brightness here as well. All right, so with your PC off, go ahead and turn it on. And to jump into the BIOS, we're just going to spam the delete key on your keyboard, and you should start to see the MEG logo start to show up. All right, we're now in the BIOS of the MSI Godlike, which uses a new Click BIOS X, which makes everything look visually appealing and very easy to find, especially with this easy mode. And they also have the advanced tab as well to get into all the advanced feature. Now going back to easy mode, right in the middle here, we have information of the actual motherboard, BIOS version, and the date on the BIOS. And on the right side here, we have more information of our CPU, as well as our RAM, all of our storages that we have connected. We can see all of our M.2 installed right here, as well as our fan profile on the bottom right here. On the left side here, on the CPU, we have game boost. And if that's something that you want to enable, you can quickly click on this, and that basically turns into on. And right over here on the memory, we can quickly turn on your XMP or EXPO profile. So since I'm using the G.Skill Z5 Royal Neo, if I want to quickly overclock that, all I have to do is click on this, and it automatically loads up the first EXPO profile, which is very easy. On the bottom here, we have easy config, and the first option here, we have precision boost overdrive, so we can easily turn these settings on if you want to enable precision boost overdrive. You also have memory try it here. So this gives us a whole bunch of different memory timings. If you want to go and jump into overclocking, if you want easy settings, you can definitely do that from the easy config. We have XD gaming mode, and this is how you can easily enable that. Of course, for more advanced features, you can go to advanced. So if I want to make sure the second NVMe slot has full slots, I can go ahead and click on PCIe subsystem settings. And then right over here, if we scroll all the way down where it says ASM4242/M.2_2 switch, by default, it is set to automatic. And so when you have an NVMe on the second slot, it automatically shares lanes with your USB 4. So this is what the ASM is for. This is for the USB 4 ports. But if I go ahead and click on M.2_2/4, now my second NVMe has all 4 lanes, and this will automatically disable the USB 4. We have a couple of other switches here. You can easily change these settings here. And then if we go to overclocking, of course, we have all of these overclocking settings here that you can really dive into. You go ahead and do exit, and it's going to let you know all of the little things that we've done. We're going to hit yes, and it'll jump straight into Windows. So after my experience with the MSI MEG X870E Godlike, this is truly a motherboard for those that want to do some serious overclocking, or for those that really love the design and the customization of the built-in LCD screen. I personally love the design, the unboxing experience, and all the insane amount of ports and M.2 sockets this board has to offer. The dual LAN is very convenient for running a NAS, and I think MSI giving us the option to disable the USB 4 ports to make room for a second Gen 5x4 NVMe drive without affecting the main express slot is clutch and really gives you more flexibility, especially when you still have an additional 5 USB-C ports on the back. The mirrored finish on the aluminum Dragon cover is an awesome touch, but on the LCD display can make it a little more difficult to see. The price at the time of this video for the Godlike sits at about $1,330 US, which is about $230 more than the original launch price, making this the most expensive and premium X870E motherboard you can get. It's not for everyone, but if you have the budget and really want the features and design of the Godlike, then I say go for it. It truly is beautiful. Thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end, and I hope I earned a subscribe from you. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Firewolf out.